Well, hello and welcome to the Stanwood Foursquare Mancast, where we talk all thing manly, godly, manliness.
That's a good intro voice.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, that's all I got. Start choking otherwise. Well, here on my right, across from me is the notorious Jonathan Perso. And Jonathan, you just went on an endeavor over the last couple of months.
Yeah.
Been so proud of you watching you do this. So I thought it'd just be kind of good to share what you've learned. When you set out, you just finished running 50 mile race.
The Badger Mountain Challenge in Richland, Washington was 50 miles.
And I've known you for about 12, 13 years. Yeah. And I've never perceived you to be a runner. So I was quite surprised when you said, I'm going to run a 50-mile race. And I was like, okay. So what made you think to set this audacious goal? Because you'd never run a marathon. You'd never run a 5K. Have you ever done a turkey trot or anything like that?
Yeah. I ran the 100-meter dash when I was in high school.
There you go.
That's the extent of my running.
Okay.
Yeah. It's a really long story, and I do like talking about it. But essentially, it came down to two things. One, it came down to a friend of mine who would just not stop bugging me about it. So the idea was planted through him, but the bigger idea, it ultimately came down to me one day just realizing I choose comfort a lot. And I have trained my brain and all of the things that I like. And I've trained my body, I trained my mind into just falling into really simple, easy patterns and choosing the path of least resistance. And I just remember coming to a point back last summer, and I got really frustrated. I'm like, comfort has got me the same results. And when I look at certain areas of my life, it is the sum of just picking comfort over and over and over again, and just saying, you know what? I need something hard. I need a challenge.
So it wasn't merely just a physical challenge.
No.
So you're talking like emotionally.
Yeah. I think the physical challenge represented really what I was trying to get at emotionally and spiritually. Okay. The emotional comfort, the spiritual comfort, the complacency in a lot of areas was, for me at least, the driving motivator to do something physical. And the physical thing was all right, I got to teach my soul something different. I got to retrain some things in my life to think differently. And
so how did you set that target? And it was, when was the date of that? It was April, right?
March 27th.
March 27th, end of March. Mm-hmm. And then, so backtrack, how long did it, from when you set that date, when did you start training?
I started training in beginning of September 2025. And so there's about 6 months from the decision to the race.
Okay, from decision to the race. And then your buddy kind of helped you, because that's a big endeavor to... Yeah. You don't just decide one day to go from zero to hero.
Yeah, I guess I was a little lucky, because I'm the person who I'm like, I'm going to do it. And I don't think necessarily about everything that it's going to take. And so
you probably needed a little bit of... not fully understanding what you were saying yes to.
Yeah. There was a healthy dose of naivety that went into doing what I was doing. And so, my buddy who had ran a couple, he sent me a training plan. Yeah. Of how many hours a week, how to build up miles, diet, just time on your feet, all of these things that I never considered. And so it was trial by fire and a lot of failure. There was a ton of failure along the way.
For sure. And I remember, I think before you ran that big 50-mile race, the first race you ran was, it
was a 50K.
50K, so like
31.47 miles.
And that was your first race ever, correct?
That was the first race ever.
So beyond a marathon, like 26.8, right, is a marathon or whatever, and you went beyond. Dude, you're crazy.
Yeah, the girls for Christmas got me, Jasmine kept trying to convince me to do a smaller race. And I was like, I want why, and I'm really grateful. For Christmas, they registered me for a 50K, and I didn't know I needed it, but when I ran it, I learned a ton. Yeah. And I told Jasmine after the 50 miler, I'm like, I might have been able to finish, but it would have been a lot more difficult had I not learned what I learned from.
So what'd you learn? I think what'd you learn about yourself? What'd you learn about the process of doing hard things?
Here's the big, I'm trying to boil it down into easy to talk about, but you know that verse in 1 Corinthians chapter 9, where Paul says, don't you know in a race all runners run, but only one gets the prize. Run in such a way to get the prize. And then he says, I do not run aimlessly or box like a boxer beating the air. And he says this line, he's like, no, I beat my body and I make it my slave. And that's always been like this. It's kind of a masochistic way of looking at like physically beating yourself to teach yourself a lesson.
Can I read that passage? It says, no, I strike a blow to my body and make it my slave so that after I have preached to others, I myself will not be disqualified for the prize.
Yep.
Sounds a little masochistic.
It's a little masochistic, right? So in the run, the 50K, the furthest up until that run, the longest that I had ran was 20 miles. And
in training.
And my buddy Ryan texted me and he said, okay, so your race will start at mile 20. So
that's beyond what you've ever done.
So you like, it's the no man's land. It's
stepping into the unknown.
And so right about mile 20, without a doubt, like everything in my body just starts kind of freaking out. My mind was telling me I'm tired and I wanted to sleep. So I started to yawn while I'm running. I had just wolfed down like a banana and some wafer crackers and taken some electrolytes right at the aid station at mile 20. And about 5 minutes later, my stomach's growling and telling me I'm hungry. My hips are screaming and saying I'm sore. My knees are barking and saying they're hurting. And it was literally everything was telling me I'm tired and I should just stop. And here's what I got in that moment. I realized that my brain was doing exactly what my brain was trained to do. My brain was sending me a bunch of signals to say, you're tired, you're sore, I don't like this, stop doing what you're doing. And I had to make a decision in that moment to listen to my physical brain, which was trying to help me.
Protect you.
Trying to protect me, right? I could listen to the brain, or I could realize that my soul or my spirit was actually in charge of my brain.
Yeah.
And that was a weird thing to be put in a physical environment to realize, oh, my brain, my physical brain, and trying to help me is at war with my spirit or my will, so to speak, and what I'm trying to accomplish. What's going to win? And I have to train my brain to do something more difficult than I've ever done before.
Did it feel like an out-of-body kind of experience?
Totally felt
wrestling with your own self?
It was wild because I'm running and in my head I'm just having this giant argument with my body, and I'm literally trying to tell my body, I'm like, you're not hungry, you just ate. You're not tired, you got more energy. And really just like, oh, okay, Paul, I kind of get what you're saying a little bit. Like I have to beat my body until it. You have to listen to your body, like when you're in actual pain or when you're actually tired. I get all that, but I wasn't actually any of those things. My brain was just trying to get me to stop. And I don't want to stop. I had to keep pushing. I had to like bust through that wall, so to speak.
Isn't it amazing? Like this is just even the nature of like if we could give a theological definition to that, because it seems like, why would God make us this way?
Yeah.
I don't think God made us this way. This is the result of the sinful, broken world. Right? Where all of a sudden the three parts of us, our mind, our body, and our spirit, because of sin, have actually been disconnected. And Paul talks about this, like, why do I do what I don't want to do when I don't want to do what I do what I do? And I do what I do these things is we don't have. And so one of the things is in this, even a physical challenge, this spiritual idea that actually my flesh, my physical body is not in charge.
Yeah. And that's, I think I knew that,
intellectually, conceptually.
Like I grew up around the church. I've heard that preached before. There's times where I've probably experienced it and lived that. This was just the biggest reality check. And that it was exactly what I wanted. I'm like, oh, that's why I choose comfort. I just allow my brain and what I've trained my brain, because my brain gives me exactly what I've trained it to give me. What I like, what I find comfortable, what I find stimulating.
It's almost like your self-fulfilled algorithm.
It's like that's a good way to say it. It's like on Instagram, right? It'll show you exactly what you want to see.
It'll reinforce what you've already.
Yep. And then so I'm like, I have to retrain the algorithm. I want something different. And so I got to put something different in to get a different result. And
so in the midst of that first run, you break mile 20, you're kind of in uncharted territory.
Yep.
How did it feel? Because I think a lot of people create a life that puts them in situations where they don't have to be in places they've never been before. And so you're kind of in a metaphorical, physical place. How did that feel to be in a place you've never been before?
The whole run up until mile 20 was kind of awesome. I was actually really enjoying it. It's like you're knocking down some challenges. You feel like I'm doing it. I'm doing this thing. I feel good. And then you get to mile 20, and I hadn't had any negative thoughts up until that point. Mile 20 came, and all of the dark thoughts crept in. Why are you doing this? Nobody cares. This is dumb. Like, tomorrow you're just going to be sore and tired, and literally nobody's going to care about what you accomplished. So why are you even trying? It does not, I kept thinking, this doesn't matter. This doesn't matter. This doesn't matter. This affects nobody's life. And I kept thinking that over and over and over again. And I was like, why do I care? Yeah. Why would I care if this affects anybody's life? I'm not doing it for anybody else's life. I did have a cool, which there's got to be cool parallels. But I was listening, I had my headphones in, they're connected to my phone. And so I'm getting all these nobody cares, and all of these thoughts. And as I'm going, my buddy who got me into this whole mess, we're a part of a group text with Jasmine and a few other friends. And so he was tracking me. I didn't know that he was tracking me in the race. So he's tracking your GPS while you're running. Yeah, so he knows exactly where I'm at in the race. And he shoots me a text, and he's like, you got this. You're doing great. Keep it up. You're crushing it. And as soon as he texts that, the other 5 people in the group chat, they chime in. And so I start hearing all of this encouragement inside of through my headphones, just like, you got this, John. You can do it. And
except in Siri's voice. You can do it.
The robotic voice, yeah.
Jasmine sent a very long text.
Yep. And it was funny because in the exact moment that I needed some encouragement to keep going, that's exactly what I got. And if I want to parallel that, man, how many times are we doing hard things in life that really matter? Somebody dies or whatever. We get fired from a job. We hit a wall and something's really difficult. The community that we have around us that cheers us on and lifts us up and supports us are oftentimes the only thing that actually gets us beyond the really difficult thing that we're trying to push through.
Beyond the limits that we think we have.
And I told them afterwards, I'm like, it was hard after that little stretch. There's 2 miles that were really difficult, but they got me out of that mental funk for just long enough to say, okay, that was mile 20. And I got to mile 22, two miles that were tough. And I'm like, I'm at mile 22. I have 4 miles to go till I run a marathon. That's cool. I've never done that before. And so I hit the marathon mark and I thought, I only have 4 miles until I'm done.
Yeah.
And so just they got me over the hurdle.
Just kind of breaking it down into doable chunks. How do you need an elephant? One bite at a time.
One bite at a time.
How do you run a 1 mile, 1 step at a time kind of thing? So when those dark thoughts were coming, maybe you've had time to reflect this, and this might be a little hard, but why do you think that was your thought process when you got to something hard of an external focus of what people would think or perceive?
Yeah, I do. Yeah. Good question. I think the whole is so existential. So I'll try to break it down a little bit, but I think a lot of my, the way Jonathan is wired, the way I'm wired is I do things for approval. And I could go back into child history. I could go back into all of those things. I won't. But I realized even a lot, I was having some light bulb moments prior to this process, but even through this process, realizing I'm doing things for approval. There's a stupid app called Strava. It's like a social media for runners. Yeah. And I posted a run, and man, I really wanted the kudos. They give you kudos on the run, and I'm like, man, I'm doing this for the kudos. Why? Why do I care so much? And just realizing there's a part of me, a broken part of me that I need some validation. I need to be told I'm doing a good job. And I look for that in certain areas instead of finding it in the real source of Jesus and saying, I'm affirmed and I know that to be true, but still needing that affirmation.
And I wonder if it's not just, we're all broken in unique ways, but we're also wired in unique ways. And Jonathan, I know you well enough that you are much more socially motivated than I'm motivated.
Yeah.
And working with you for years, like, trying to find, as your boss, like trying to find, hey, how do I appreciate you?
Yeah.
How do I find those things? And I've discovered that it's not, it is appreciation, it's time, it's those kind of things. I think you remember even tell like our breakthrough, I took you to a Seahawks game.
Yeah.
You're like, maybe this guy doesn't actually hate me. We kind of shared that, but it's that. So I think you can perceive that as a brokenness, which there's our greatest strengths are also our greatest weakness.
Sure. Yep.
But actually, hey, that's what I need. And then, wouldn't that be helpful to just know that, to know I need this from my community. I actually need to, I need you to tell me I'm doing a good job.
Yeah. Not as a selfish motivator, but just like, that's a love language.
Yeah.
That
Recognizing
does
this is what I need. This is helpful for me.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. So this was a big commitment. I mean, you got 3 young kids at home.
Thank you, Jasmine.
Yeah. You got, so what did you have to say no to embark on this? Because I think a lot of us want to go places we've never been before. We want to push ourselves, but you have to say no to some things to really develop new things.
Yeah, I mean, when I did talk to Jasmine before we did this, but I didn't realize how big of a commitment it would be.
Yeah.
And I got
the naivete of this.
There it is. And Jasmine was awesome. She was so supportive, and I really appreciate that. But like a few things I had to say no to was sleep. Okay. Like I had to wake up early to get the runs in, to get the miles in. So I'm like, okay, I got just, if I'm going to do this, I can't cost my family the time. So I have to do it on my own time. So finding where I could edge some things out. Hobbies. So even like, I like golf. I golf all the time, and at least throughout the year. There's no off season, find a driving range or whatever. And I think I went the longest stretch I've ever gone in the last couple of years. I
know. Well, he hasn't changed his swag. He has a golf shirt on, fighting for par, and a Bad Birdie t-shirt on.
That's right.
He hasn't become a total runner. He hasn't like got all running gear yet.
It's like, too expensive.
Well, you're deeply invested in the golf, but you had to say no.
I said no to the hobbies. And that was more difficult than I realized. Like Saturdays, we're not going to the driving range with, or I used to, Jasmine, we do like a trade-off, and instead of doing the fun thing, I picked the training thing, the hobby, or that became the hobby.
Yeah. So you had to, you couldn't do everything.
I couldn't do everything. And then I had to balance with Jasmine of times where, can I go, I can't do a 20-mile run quickly. It just takes hours.
It takes time. Yeah.
And so really sitting down with her and mapping out all of our weeks. So we did our Sunday business meeting. And we said, when are we going to get the training run in? Which was so much more difficult for me than it should have been, because I realized I really try to cater my schedule around what's easy for Jasmine and the girls. Yeah. So I'll figure out what Jasmine is doing, what the girls are doing. We'll put those things down first, and then I'll figure out what I'm going to do. And I realized this is such a big commitment. They all had to kind of change some things around me so I can get this time in. And I fought that because I'm like, that's really selfish.
You actually said, we need to get these miles in. It wasn't we getting the miles in, it was Jonathan.
But that's
me. Interesting. So why did you say that even we?
Well, having a perspective shift, you helped with this too, of I could do this as an individual thing, but we were having a conversation and I was talking about it, and it's like, is this a Jonathan thing or is this a family thing?
Yeah.
And because it took everybody in our family kind of pivoting and being supportive and sacrificing, I couldn't have done it without them. Yeah. So even though I'm the one physically doing something, they were all playing their part in making it happen. So even during the 50-mile race, one of my, like the best moment of the entire race was at the finish line, and all the girls are there with signs. They were there throughout the whole day, but huge signs cheering me on. At one of the aid stations, it was about mile 33, had 2 giant blisters on my feet, and I couldn't bend down to bandage my own feet.
Yeah.
And so Jasmine had to take my shoes off, wipe my feet down. She bandaged my toes, and then she put my shoes back on so I could continue running. And I might have been able to finish. I don't want to say it was so severe, but my goodness, without her support and actually being there to do all that, it would have been a lot more difficult to actually accomplish the race. So yeah, like it's a we finished type of thing.
What would you hope to, I mean, seeing that we part and your girls seeing that, your oldest is 8-9 years old right now. what would you want them to see or learn from from this crazy endeavor that you had?
I think there's so many things. So there's a lot. I think the first thing that comes to mind is consistency matters.
Yeah.
In big journeys. There was a point in the race, mile 2, I'm on top of a big hill, just like it was a 1,500 foot climb, an elevation change. And I'm only 2 miles in, and I'm able to see the third peak to where we're going. And it was so far away.
Because that wasn't just 50 miles. It was a lot of elevation change, right?
8,000 feet elevation change.
That's a lot
time.
if you don't know. That's a mile is 5,280 feet.
And so it was kind of daunting to think I'm 2 miles in. I'm looking at where we have to go, and I'm seeing the 2 hills that I have to go over to get there.
Yeah.
And I got really overwhelmed. It's like, I don't know how I'm going to do this. And so the thought came 1 mile at a time, right? You don't need an elephant all at one time. You smaller bites. And so it's just 1 mile at a time. And when I was training, I remember I felt like, my word for the year is the word conquer.
Yeah.
And I think there's some things in me that Jesus wants to conquer. And the word, I felt like it was the Holy Spirit. I know it was the Holy Spirit. He says, you conquer through consistency.
Yeah. One
step at a time.
We think it's some grand act of valor that's going to make it happen.
I had the picture of getting the big sword and just hacking through the enemy and doing all the things. And it was, you conquer through consistency, one step at a time, making one decision at a time.
Yeah.
And I think for the girls, I like, stick at it. Like, don't get overwhelmed. Don't get discouraged. You're going to have setbacks. I had a lot of setbacks in the whole thing, like hurting my leg or just not knowing what I needed to know. But just deciding like, hey, we're going to be consistent in this. We're going to keep showing up, keep trying, keep at it. And doesn't matter if I wasn't the fastest. I finished 89th out of 190 runners.
Right in the meaty part of the curve, man.
Yeah, right a little bit in the middle. And so I wasn't the fastest, but the goal wasn't to be the fastest. It was to finish. And so finished through consistency.
And you're competitive, and that was probably...
It was a little tough. I shouldn't have, but I was 89th, and my time was 12 hours, 39 minutes. The next 30 in front of me, they finished within 5 minutes.
Oh, so it's close.
And I'm like, I could have taken like 50.
And didn't you run with your friend that first 50 miles?
Yeah.
And then he went and did another, he did 100 that day, right?
Yeah. If you ever want to feel like your accomplishment is insignificant, I finished the race and I'm smoked. The sun was just setting, and my buddy's like, he's running the same track again. So he ran 100 miles.
Rest up, Jonathan. I'm going to go do it again.
Yep. So I'm sleeping and he's running.
But isn't that kind of an amazing thing of like, when we think we're at our limit, we realize how much more we're capable of.
Yep.
So, Jonathan, a couple thoughts to kind of wind us down. One is, like, as you look into the future, I think you're really proud you did this sense of accomplishment. So now that you've done that, like, is this something you're going to do all the time? Is this like, I needed to lay this down? Like, as you kind of lay that, because I think often we set goals and then what do we do and we accomplish them?
Yeah. That's a good question too, because there was this definite huge letdown at the end of it. And I almost tried to sign up for another race really, really quick. And Jasmine stopped me and she's like, why are you signing up for a race? Like, why would you do that? And I realized, oh no, like there's some brokenness as to why I wanted to sign up for another race. So yeah, to answer that question, no, I'm not going to do it all the time. I enjoy running. And so if it's going to be, an enjoyable experience, something to do for fun, yeah, we're going to go after it. But we've learned the lessons, and like, it's got to be a family commitment too. So I don't need to do it, but there's some enjoyment in doing it as well.
I think sometimes even good things like that, and this is kind of the way I think men are wired, not but everybody is like, because it gives us a sense of high, sense of accomplishment, and then we just keep chasing the high.
Keep chasing the feeling.
Versus celebrating, hey, look where we've come from.
Yeah.
And well, man, I'm so proud of you. I think great lessons to learn. And so somebody's sitting out there like, hey, I want to run a big race. Is it worth it?
It's worth it.
Worth it.
Yeah. For different ways than you'll think.
Yeah. we could talk more maybe eventually, but I'm sure you discovered some interesting emotional things. I know when I've been in those moments, isn't it surprised the emotions? You're like, why am I crying? Like,
why am I crying?
Yes.
Yeah, I did have that moment.
It's just when you're physical, but like they're so connected and you're like, these emotions are not related to anything, but it is amazing when we're stripped down what our emotions discover. But hey, thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
And I'm sure people would come talk to you more about that. But thanks, man. We'll be watch for the next episode of the Mancast. You're loved and believed in.
Peace.
Out.